Okay, we're starting a conversation with Alina Okun. I'm Volney Falsi, as you are reading here. And please introduce yourself, Alina.
Hi, Molly. Thank you for having me. Um, I am a future of work strategist. At least that's what I'm calling myself at the moment. Um, my background is in corporate finance, so I come from a very traditional professional background. I spent 2 decades at primarily large organizations. But over the past several years, I've been deep in research on the future of work. I am very curious and passionate about finding an alternative because I know that we cannot ignore that 70 plus of employees at any given organization are disengaged or unhappy. So something is definitely not working for the majority of people, and I don't think we have to continue this way. I think now we're in a world where there could be other options, other alternatives, and I am trying to find them, develop them, create them, and just engage with people who are on a similar path and looking for similar solutions.
And Alina writes regularly in her Substack page. That's where I found her. And just recently, she is now a member of our fellowship. It's the Future of Work Global Network. And I'm pleased to announce that Alina is one of our fellows, and it makes me very, very glad and happy because we've been talking privately. You know, this is the first time we're going into the public, to the public eyes, and we will, I think, this is how we prepared part of the conversation. We will make it public. We will open a conversation on our own dramas, how we are feeling since we embrace the future of work issue as one of the most important flags in our own work and on our own career, in our own issue that will fill our hearts in accomplishment. So, what are some of those dramas, Alina?
Yes, I'm very excited to be a part of this network. And what stood out to me the most is when we spoke for the first time. Somehow we ended up mentioning Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think everyone has studied that in college at least once, and you made a very interesting distinction that stuck with me. I think the majority of people, when they hear an idea of the future of work or hear some of these conversations, it it sounds too abstract to them, too philosophical. And so if we think of that hierarchy, they are probably placing it at the top, at the self-actualization place. And like, wouldn't that be nice if I could enjoy the work that I do? Wouldn't it be nice, if Monday, if I was excited about Monday on Monday morning? Um, and that's where most people stop. But when we talked about it, you place the future of work at the very foundation, along with food, shelter. It is a basic need that all of us have. And I think that it was a very interesting way to frame this. And when we approach it that way, that just makes it so urgent. And it makes it a very necessary conversation to have, not just in small circles as an intellectual exercise. This is a very practical and just necessary issue to discuss.
Yeah, this is one of the dramas because what we feel, what we have experienced, at least I have experienced, is that it's hard to give the employees or the person or the profession or the worker in general a sense of urgency as how the world will be different. I mean, it's not 30, 40 years from now. It's going to be different tomorrow. It's going to be different next year, 2025. We're just there. And each day that goes by, we're losing, we're missing the opportunity to really change ourselves and prepare ourselves and create the better future for ourselves. But it's funny because the way the culture is rooted, uh, you don't. People are very well in their position, and it doesn't resonate so well. Oh, I wanna understand. I wanna go after. What? Give me five advices. Give me two, three things that I must do from now on, and that's my drama. That's my dilemma. I know I have been studying the future of work and disruption of career. I have gold in my hands, but people are not aware of this goal. They are not aware that you really need to wake up before it's too late. That's the little joke that I have in the introduction of my channel. That's, oh, when it comes, we will change. Oh, it's coming, but we still have time. Oh, the things just happen. Oh, but now we cannot do anything about it. So this is kind of the drama that I feel for myself.
Yes, and I try to come into this f- with some empathy towards people, in the sense that, um, I mean, change is uncomfortable. That's just a known fact that most people do not like change. Most people do not feel comfortable with change, and that's just our natural, just being human. Um, and so, um, the reason I write my on Substack is to give people small snippets of different ways of thinking, because you're right. We've grown up with a certain mindset, that goes back to the Industrial Revolution, and our system has been as it currently is for almost 200 years. So to say, well, it's going to be totally different tomorrow, I think it is a little bit difficult for most people to wrap their head around it. And so my goal has been to introduce different ideas in every week, and just in the newsletter format, and in the future maybe in a slightly different format. But I do think that it needs to be done in small chunks and something that is digestible, when people are so overwhelmed and there's so much anxiety in the world right now. So I'm trying not to add to the anxiety. So I'm trying to approach it from a curiosity point of view, and but sometimes it's still challenging.
It is. It is. I've started my Substack in March, and I think I wrote the post 173 last night, just in 2024. It's a little bit like you're doing, snippets, but since I had done a lot of research, a lot of preparation for a career disruption approach, and at the same time, because of the future of work, the global network, because of the projects that we have of being a keynote speaker in some events, and the future of work conference that we want to put up next year in Cape Town, probably at this same time, October, which is a nice time for the weather because of the season and so on. And I think not only for the conference, but for people that will go from other countries, Brazil in special, to Cape Town, so we can really have other activities besides the conference in itself. And because of all this effort, I kind of had a backlog of ideas and insights that I wanted to share. And this is what I have been doing all the year long. And at the same time, I had an opportunity to write in a weekly column in also in a dynamic magazine. It's a site, a news, kind of a critic of the traditional media. And every Wednesday, I put up an article there. And it's funny because it's a way that I can sense what they are thinking about the future. Because when I kind of say, you gotta change, I write it, and people comment and say, hey, easy there. Things are not gonna change so radically, artificial intelligence is something very, very beneficial for everybody. You don't have to worry about it. And it seems that we're accepting the changes in a critical way. We're not being wise. We're not seeing it with smart eyes. And for sure, we will have problems ahead. But it's kind of an exercise so that I can be near my audience. It doesn't. There's no value on having gold in your hand, and people want, as Maslow has put it out, people want bread. So if you don't change that gold into food, there's no use in stressing that approach.
What demographic is responding the most to your articles? Because in my case, I'm finding that it's mostly educators, which I love. I love that I'm attracting educators who are also thinking proactively. But I'm wondering, since you're publishing in the more immediate, for the wider audience, who typically responds to your articles?
Most of the comments and the people that are subscribers to my Substack, at least those that are more active, are more prone to answer my research and my poll. I did a poll with my subscribers. They are in the bracket of 45 to almost 69, most of them. They are in the middle of the career, either if they are employed or if they are businessmen, businesswomen, business people, and they still will be active for at least the next 15 years, 20 years. So these are the people that really give value for what I write, for what I share. But I find that the best contribution we can deliver is for the youth, for those that are in college or have recently been out of college, that are starting their career, starting to be employed, because this is the prophecy that I'm stressing, you know. It's not the profession that will change. It's the place of employment that will shrink. You know, there's that movie. You know, dear, I shrink the kids. I can't remember the right title, but HR will be asked to go over to the CEO's office, and he will say, HR, we shrinked our company. And if you had 100 people, you're gonna have maybe 20, 30. So 1/3 of the workforce that are prone to jobs, are prone to employment, they won't have a place to fix uh, their little their little hearts. You know, they will have to go uh, some other way. They will have to find some other solution for their income.
So I'm not surprised to hear that that's the demographic that responds to your articles primarily, and I think that's why I don't like the term the future of work, because for the demographic that's responding to you, that's their present. So it's not some arbitrary philosophical concept that we're discussing. That's their reality, because the traditional career paths, I feel, stop at about 20 years. So like 20 years into your career, if you have been ambitious, if you have been doing what you should have been doing, you would have reached the top. And then what? And I think in the previous generations, or at least there used to be that mindset, you get the job and you can stay at that company, your entire career. I mean, that's pretty much gone. But that is now, like, that's the urgency that this has already happened. Like, that world is gone. So we don't even have to discuss AI and the changes that AI will create and technology will create. We are at the present seeing massive changes. I'm seeing that with a lot of people that I know who are highly educated, highly accomplished, um, who still have years to go in their professional lives, but they've tapped out. Like, they are not sure what they can do now, and I think that is, it's sad, it's unfortunate, and so yeah, the urgency is here. Like, this needs to be resolved now in some sort of capacity. It will evolve, and AI can help and hurt, and but yeah, I don't think this is the future. This is definitely the present.
Yeah, yeah. And on the other side, the young ones, the demographics on 25 to 40, they already know. I mean, that's what they think, you know. I know how I can move up the scale. I can move up in the company, and I will think about the future once I get on the top. So now I'm focus on getting onto the top. This is the future. My future is getting into the top. And they don't, they are not aware that once they get in, or in the middle of the journey, or once they get into the top, they will have to exercise themselves in a very profound way to reinvent them, because it might be too late. It might be too late to prepare yourself for the next chapter. So
Yes, and so you were addressing an issue that became so clear to me a couple of years ago when I was having interviews. So I conducted a couple of dozen interviews with young professionals. Some of them were still in college. Some of them were maybe a year or two out of college. And what became absolutely obvious and clear to me is that the educational system had not changed. They were being taught the exact same thing that I learned, 20, 30 years ago. And so they're being prepared for the world that does not exist or, changing rapidly. And you're right, that, they're following the same roadmap um, that we were told to follow, decades ago.
by our parents.
Yes, and while it's well intentioned and everyone means well, they're setting them up for failure. And failure, like in a bad way, in the sense, like in the entrepreneurial world, we always say, failure is good. You learn from it, but it's an unnecessary, difficult path because of the limited perspective that we're creating for young people. And while there's nothing wrong with taking a traditional job and climbing the corporate ladder, that is just one option. And it's a good option for some people, but definitely not a good option for a lot of people. And so, at a minimum, what I'm trying to do is introduce the idea that there are options, and at least allow people to make a choice versus falling into something that they believe is the only way to have a good life.
At the same time, it's not an easy task to go up the corporate ladder, because you have some good years of experience in the corporate world, and so did I, so I have. And it's not that we are condemning the corporate culture, but we know how limited it is for a person to flourish in that environment. It's not easy. I mean, it's distressful, it's stressful, it's demeaning, and there's all those negative components on the employee that 80%, 70% of those young people that we wishful thinking, we think they will have their careers accomplished as they had dreamed, as they have planned. It won't happen, and it's in our hands, and it's our responsibility to give them a warning speech, a warning saying, a warning sermon, if you may want to go in a religious parameter, but it's the wake up call. This is where I feel angst. I feel really, really, really stern inside myself. We should do something, and we cannot be passive about it. We have to raise up the flags, play the drums, wake up, the bells, and yell and say, this is illusion. I mean, it's illusionary to think that everything will be okay, not only on the employee side, but on the owners, the directors, the leaders of the corporate world. Wake up, things are going to change radically. Oh, I know that. Things are going to change. Uh, this is my personal angst. I'm here having a therapy conversation with Alina.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's 100% true. Um, I approach it maybe a bit more philosophically. Um, the the big change that happened for me is when I came across a concept of a life design. I don't even remember the first time I saw that, but it was a phrase that just stopped me in my tracks because I just never thought of it that way. I never thought of, okay, let's start with designing the type of life you want and then creating a job around it versus I think the way most people in especially in high achieving families approach it is okay, let's look at the well-paid jobs and there are not that many of them and okay, and just pick one and that's going to be your major and off you go. And then and if this job requires you to work 80, 90 hours a week, okay, well then you build the life around it. And at some point you decide you have personal situation and family if that works. So it's like everything is based on um, on this profession that oftentimes we pick when we're very young, when we don't really know about other options. Oftentimes it feels very arbitrary. Maybe it's one thing you heard and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And some people get lucky and the choices that they make are great and they're very happy with them. But I think most people are not. And then years into it they're just trying to figure out like what happened. Like how did I get here and why am I so miserable? I did everything I was supposed to do. And and so while yes, the world is changing and technology is changing and how we work can change, I'm almost looking more at what is not going to change. And we'll have to make a living until we come up with something different. Most of us will need to have some kind of a job that will pay us to allow us to have whatever lifestyle we choose. And and so I don't know, I try to approach it from that perspective, where I'm not so focused on everything that's going to be different, but on everything that will stay the same, but maybe can be done. I think I really fundamentally believe that most of it has to do with a mindset, more so than even the tasks that we do or the actual professions themselves. Um, and so, yeah, so that's the type of stuff that I'm trying to sort out in my own writing, because as we know, writing is thinking. And so hopefully I'll, figure that out at some point.
Mhm. I like that. I like that. Writing is thinking, and this is what we're doing. At least in this year, this is the most I have been doing. And one thing that I try to develop, I have done some posts on this issue, on the interface of something that is conceptual, which will kind of undermine the old mindset and will give space for a new mindset. So have the conceptual part of the way you view the world, the way you view your own life, the way you view your future. And what is practical about it is okay, then let's start to thinking on the future in terms of scenarios and in terms of safety, a safety net, you know. And I was talking to Joe Irie is one of our fellows in our global network, and she has a marketing agency in Cape Town, and she's very sensitive to the challenge of the workplace. And we were kind of sharing the needs from our society, the Brazilian and the African countries in general. And she gave me an illustration that was fantastic. She said, in Nigeria, nobody, it's rare, only seldom, the person has one job, one main, one job, and that's it. Of course, the main job is to assure for them to make a living, but they have two, three activities along the week, and that's how they make their income purse, income wallet. They they work from some time to the other, then they go after some small errands or some small service they will render in such a way that at the end of the month they pick these two, three sources of income, and they they keep on going forward. Yeah, it's really a cultural thing in Nigeria. But there's some part I have found some people in Brazil, but this is an important concept that you can make people start to change it. Don't depend just on the number one income that you have. Oh, but I don't have time. You don't need to work another 8 hours each day. You can spend or you can invest 8 hours of your week, 10 hours of your week, maybe a whole Saturday on a second project, or 2, 3 hours Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, at the evenings, in such a way that you diversify your income wallet, and at the same time you prepare yourself in a diversified specialization. You're doing some specialized work in different fields, because you're not putting all the eggs on the same basket.
I truly believe that that's the answer. That in some shape or form, that will be where we end up. And because there are so many benefits to that type of lifestyle. I mean, you just made a point from an economic perspective, just income diversification. But I also think that there's even a personal benefit when we choose a job, choose a profession. That's only one part of us. Most people have multiple interests. Most people are a lot more interesting than what the persona that they have to create when they show up at work. First of all, it is a persona. Like they can't even be truly themselves. Um, and they're only just fulfilling just one part of who they are. The the scenario that you just created would allow people to tap into different interests that they might have. And so I think it's just from, kind of coming back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we can fulfill multiple levels of human needs, not just just one, just to make a living, but also give people an opportunity to really develop, fulfill their true potential. Um, which is why several years ago, when Web3 was a big thing and DAOs, decentralized atomic organizations, kind of became hot, like I explored that because I thought that that was really interesting how you could work for different DAOs doing different things. I think it was an experiment. And maybe anytime we have something that brand new, maybe it was a bit extreme. Um, but I think there are learnings to be gained from it. Um, I think that people definitely felt more fulfilled. There was more personal accountability, just because they wanted to contribute. So I'm very curious to explore different possibilities of what a work life can look like when you have more than one job, the way we know it.
Yeah, and for some people, it's I mean, it's even more stressful. I can't keep up with my own work. You are asking me to diversify, to give more of myself to some other tasks, to some other priority. I cannot do that. So it's really a difficult task to equalize, it's a complex situation. The answer is not simple. It's not simple.
But I think it's at least it's specific. So when we talk about that, the future is changing, the work is changing, that's abstract. And they're like, okay, well, what do I do? Um, but this is an example where it does start with a mindset shift. So it's not even that they have to do anything different right this second. It's just, okay, let's start by at least introducing the idea that in the future, ideally even now in the present, but in the future for sure, that's what your work life will look like. It's not going to be just one full-time job. It's going to be that plus something else, and maybe even more so. And so maybe at first that's all there is, that's where we leave it at that, and just at least allow people to get used to that idea and start brainstorming. Because what I notice is these are the type of conversations that I've been having with my friends, and it's funny that at some point they start coming back with different ideas, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, I could be doing this and I could be doing that. And it's so exciting to watch people come alive, because unfortunately a lot of our jobs kind of kill the creativity and kill the humanity in people sometimes. And just by giving people an opportunity to dream, to imagine something different, they come through. They start to imagine a different life and different possibilities. And yeah, and it's really wonderful to watch.
Mhm. Yeah, we shouldn't play with ourselves as with a messianic approach, with like like the say, I am the savior. I know what you're gonna have to do to walk for your walks of life. I have the this is the roadmap. This is the answer. I have the solution. I have this. It's not that way. But I feel myself very at ease being like a provocateur, like, steering, like asking critical questions. And as I told, bringing out talks that really wakes up people, makes people to illuminate the way, to make things more, to see things more clearly. I think this is our mission, and we kind of balance ourselves with that approach, not promising what we cannot deliver. Uh, and I think we are. Let me make a self compliment to ourselves, to you, and to me. I think in this sense we are on the right track, Alina. We're doing it right. We're being careful, and we're being sensitive, and we are and we'll keep on going. We'll keep on writing and studying and reading and doing research and talking to people like you, and develop more and more what we can bring about to the public.
Yes, and just to add to that, the reason I called my newsletter Future Skill is because I decided to approach it from a skills perspective, just to start mentioning the type of skills that people will need in the future. And critical thinking is is one of them, and I think for some people it can sound vague, but it is the idea of being able to think for yourself. And I think it ties well to your point. It's not that we are providing the solution, a blanket answer that will be right for everyone, but no, it's definitely not that. It's more of, okay, try to figure out the answer for yourself, at least like, start thinking about it critically, versus just following a path that's been around, for 200 years and that has been outdated for decades already.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Alina, I will say this. This is the first of many talks. Who knows, in a couple of days forward, we can call someone else, or at least we can do a second chapter on this, on how we're developing, because we got a lot of things that we can, we're doing in an informal way. This conversation has not been outlined and prepared, and chat gpt or some other tool has helped us. We just let the talk flow, and this is what we came about in the 44 minutes of our talk, and we'll leave it like that, because I want to get back, and I want to continue on the issue as we are developing, because this is something, it's an exercise that I feel it's most provocative and important for the audience, because as it's something very sincere on our part. We, as Maslow has put it, my self-realization is to help people and to be innovative as we look into the future. And so we want to keep this conversation going, and we'll be back. Okay, Alina, uh, final words for this chapter. We will continue, please.
Yes, I think both of us can honestly say that we're very passionate about this. We truly believe in this. This is not theoretical. And so, yes, this is ongoing. We're constantly researching, we're finding different ways of seeing things. The world is moving. So, this is going to be an evolving process.
Mhm,
Thank
mhm.
you for having me.
I'm the one who says thank you, and my heart is full of gratitude. And it's one of the good things in 2024. I have met Alina, and we're getting a small group, but very strong, that really dives into this issue to really bring about to the public uh, a very important contribution. And thanks for your time.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you for watching us, and the Brazilian audience. You can, as we put subtitle, you can leave your comments in Portuguese. Okay. Bye bye.